Off for free. It's the slogan for Students Defending Students, a group of OU students who help others navigate the campus judicial process. The slogan dates back to the formation of the group in 1976. So, the words in question, we get you off for free. Like, kind of funny, I guess. But you can see how there's, like, the sexual innuendo, obviously. But also, like, the double meaning of, like, if you are being represented in a court of law, like, to get off from that, from, like, whatever is being brought against you means, like, you're free. You can walk free. So, like, you know, some typical college humor. Kind of funny and, like, I think notable that it dates back from 1976. So this is, like, the slogan, well, let's see. The slogan dates to the formation of the group in 1976. So it sounds like that slogan's been around for a while. This group has been around for a while. So why is this happening now? Okay. All right. Smith says that he and two other students were wearing the shirt to recruit students on campus in 2013 when an OU administrator took offense to it, according to the suit. Smith alleged that Jenny Hall Jones, dean of students, later told the group, "I don't want to see you wearing that t-shirt again." So we have another player in the game now, another administrator, Jenny Hall. Members of the group stopped wearing the shirt, fearing that they would be punished under an OU rule that forbids any act that demeans, degrades, or disgraces any person. Okay, so that policy that we were asking about up here, like we weren't really sure what was going on with that. It looks like we have like some more like specific information about it here. So there's a rule, which I'm going to say, is that a policy? Policy, question mark? That forbids any act that demeans, degrades, or disgraces any person. So this looks like this could be like some potential evidence. This could maybe be some like hard evidence that Smith could like propose in a court of law to say like, is my t-shirt gonna demean, disgrace, or like harm any people in any way? Okay, so like the evidence is building, it seems like. As part of the settlement, the university will revise that rule. Okay, so maybe this policy is changing. So maybe if we're saying that like this group has been around since 1967, this slogan has been around, if the question is, why is this an issue now? It seems like there are a lot of things changing. Maybe the policy is changing, maybe like the campus culture is changing or something like that. So I'm going to underline that they'll revise that rule. Now it will forbid harassment that interferes with someone else's education. Seems like a pretty important point. The school will also revise its handbook to say that students will not be subject to disciplinary action for the lawful expression of ideas. Okay. All right. Let's stop there for now, and for time's sake, and get back to our sourcing. Okay. Get back to our worksheet. Because I think already we have like some solid evidence that we could be using if we're writing our paper. So. Okay. Okay. So the next question we have, which is actually like a pretty big one that I think sort of often gets overlooked when you're looking at sources, but the question of audience. So for whom was this document written? How does the intended audience affect the meaning of this document? So I think like often this has a big influence on like if you're giving a speech to a group of people, or like if you're writing to a specific group of people with a specific like ideology or a specific idea. So if I was giving a speech on like gun rights to the NRA, my audience is important, okay? Unless I want to get booed off the stage or something like, well, assuming that they're, you know, all against like gun restrictions, I would have to change what my message is depending on the audience, right? So there might be some implicit bias that's there depending on who you're talking to. So the question here is like, who was this written for, right? Is that a question?
Yeah, wouldn't you just change the audience as opposed to the message?
When you just change the audience? I think that's one thing you could do, yeah.
Like most authors have a pretty clear goal of what they're trying to accomplish.
Mm-hmm. So if you as an author have a specific like message that you want to get across, like say that I like didn't want open carry laws, I probably wouldn't present that to the NRA. Is that sort of what you mean? Yeah. Yeah, I think in certain situations that's definitely true. For this though, like he's a journalist, and especially like in the internet age, I mean like this was written in Columbus, Ohio, right? But it was pretty easy for me to find it in California. So this isn't really a question of like back in the day when they're like before the internet, when it was like you have your local newspaper, maybe you could go to a library to find newspapers from other places, but here like this is going to be widely distributed. So even if it's written for like the Columbus audience, so it's written for like the local audience of the school, like people who know Ohio State, it's still like, it's going to be distributed nationally. And as a journalist, I'm sure he understands that. So I think like, I'm going to say that the audience is local. So I'll say local, like college students, or I'll say college affiliates. So like people who are affiliated with the college. So that could be students, administrators, people who went there, anything in general. But I'm also going to say that like this newspaper is nationally distributed. Okay, so that means that like it was not hard for us here to find it. So because of that, I'm sort of, well, I guess it's getting to our next question, but I'm sort of moving towards thinking that this is somewhat neutral. Like, if not neutral, then like, at least it's maybe like, it's not clearly on one side or the other. At least that's how I'm feeling right now. Let's go on and see what the rest of our SOAPES structure is. So here we go. Here's the question. Perspective, right? Which is what we've been like really focusing on intensely with all of our deconstructing political media. And like pretty much everything you read, you should be thinking about what is the perspective and what is the bias, right? Because there are reasons why people are writing things. And we want to make sure that like we can separate that reason with like what are the facts involved. What is the author's perspective on the issue? For, against, neutral? Whose perspective did the author leave out? I feel like that's a really important one in general. How does the author's perspective affect the meaning of the document? So while I feel like this is fairly neutral, at least in the sense of like it's written to like a broad audience, and you should be following along, you should be writing this down, okay? This is your model for like what you'll be using as you do it yourself, okay? After reading this, like even as much as we've just read, it feels fairly neutral to me, I think. But I also think that it would be hard to come away from this and like not agree with Smith. Does anyone feel differently? Like, would you say that like he shouldn't have the right to wear that T-shirt?